ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
Thursday, February 20th edition. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, you can join the program anytime by calling us on the Miller Lite phone lines, 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, hold true, great taste, only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. We got a lot to get into. I've got Spencer Dupuis in studio with me as well. We're going to talk a little Marshall basketball later on because we've got some thoughts from Jansen Williams, Jared West, Tavion Kinsey. We'll hear from those guys a little bit later on. And, of course, a busy week ahead for Marshall baseball, softball. We've also, of course, got basketball coming up this Saturday for the Thundering Herd on the men's side. The women tonight taking on Bowling Green's very own Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. And, of course, Tony Kemper. I can't wait to get him back on the show because I'm going to bring Spencer in here just for a second. And we're going to do this quickly.
Hello?
Hi.
You can actually hear me if
I can hear you now.
in the tri-state area.
Hey,
right
first rule of speech is just keep going. Don't admit your mistake.
I mean, the mayor called me out, so I feel like I have to admit my mistake.
Fair enough. We're going to forget that ever happened, and we're going to move on with our lives with this. But yesterday, Tony Kemper calling me out. So my first reaction is to call you out, and then I went back and reviewed the tape. And I'm going to save the tape for Tony. But Tony was busting my chops. And I went back and listened to what I actually said on Valentine's Day. And all I said was he went 14 minutes in his press conference. We're not going to hear 14 minutes of Tony Kemper because I'd rather have him on the show instead of that interview. So I'm saving that so when Tony's back on the show, I can play that for him. But if you want to go back and listen to that, you can go, of course, anywhere you get your podcast and listen to any episode we have posted, including the Valentine's Day edition of The Drive, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. So I will exonerate you, Spencer, and at the same time, I'm going to bust Tony next time he's on the show. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will.
No, it's good talking to Tony yesterday, and we had John Mercer on yesterday as well, so that was fun. But we're going to hear from some of the Thundering Herd players today, get their thoughts on the upcoming pod play. We've got bonus play coming up this weekend. Thundering Herd in action at the Cam Henderson Center. We've got sort of almost a day-night doubleheader going on with the women and the men, so we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But we got a lot of football news to get into. We'll touch on some of it later on, but the big story today is the announcement that Marshall and ECU, they're going to move the game. They're going to move their game, season opener for Marshall. They're going to move it to August 29th. So instead of the first Saturday in September, we're going to play that game on August 29th. Of course, Marshall is at East Carolina. And so part of the reason this is happening is because they're going to put this on a national outlet somewhere. I think ESPN's pretty much where it's going to go. It might be on ESPN2, ESPNU maybe, ESPN. I don't know. That's down the road, but it's going to be a national broadcast. And the reason, of course, is these two schools are linked together. If you know your history, if you don't, I'll just briefly catch you back up. It was Marshall leaving ECU. They played them on November 14th, 1970, lost 17-14, and then the return flight was from ECU, for those of you maybe not that familiar with the story, because I kind of have to remember at all times, not everybody grew up with this, so there are new people to the story all the time. So these two schools are really linked, and so they want to do something to honor Marshall and this, and Marshall and ECU are going to play this game on the 29th. They had to get a waiver. So ECU got a waiver to do this, and Marshall was on board with it. But ECU, in their waiver, included the bios of all 75 victims of the plane crash, just to get this waiver, just to hit home. 50th anniversary. This should be something that's a pretty big deal. And so You've got this game is going to get a lot more attention because not everybody's playing on August 29th. This is going to bring a lot of attention to this game, a lot of attention to this story. And so I thought it was a nice gesture because it's Marshall, ECU. If it was anything else, any other game, maybe I don't know if I would be as on board with it. But since it's Marshall, ECU, it makes total sense because of the fact that these two schools are linked. And it's really been a nice friendly rivalry between Marshall and ECU. I mean, they know the shared history. And I'm sure the fans are on board with this as well at ECU. So it's going to be no time yet given, but it's going to be on August 29th. And so Marshall's going to have, I believe, an off week after that. I don't think they're going to rearrange anything else. So Marshall at least is going to have an off week after this as they get ready for Pitt after this game. So that's pretty much what's happening with football. And, of course, we got several months to talk about football, and we'll keep this in mind as we get closer to this. I'm kind of curious what kind of program ECU is going to put together, what kind of activities are going to go along with this, what kind of television programming we might see, because, of course, if you're going to do something like this, ESPN, I'm sure, is going to have something in connection with this, because this is a milestone. This is 50. After that, the next milestone is going to be 75, I think. I think you aren't going to have as big of a milestone. I don't think 55 or 60 or 65. I don't think that's really a major milestone. You get to 75. That'll probably be the biggest milestone. Hopefully I'm around for that. I'm going to be pretty old when we get to that milestone for 75. But I think enough people will still be around who are, who were around then, who remember. It will be interesting to see where this goes from there. But 50 is a big milestone. We get to 75 and maybe 100. I don't know. At least it's still being remembered because there are events that have been forgotten. And so this is going to be interesting. That's pretty much all I've got on it, young Spencer, who I know is a youngster. You were born after this. So I mean, it's on you now as a youngster. It's on you.
Yeah, it's on me. And something interesting to think about that day is you're not going to get a college game day at East Carolina. I initially thought, I was like, maybe that's going to be what ESPN will settle for if they don't come here. I mean, coming here, honestly, is probably a long shot in November just because of that time of year and in most other schedules. But then I looked at the schedule, and I talked to one of my friends, colleagues at WMUL. He's a Notre Dame guy. Notre Dame is playing Navy in Dublin, Ireland. So College Game Day will be there. My guess is that game's at 2 p.m., so you may see a night game on ESPN.
It's a possibility. Maybe they'll want to do something for that, or we'll see. But in lieu of that, I think this would be a good thing to have because this is where it really gets started with the tragic story. Marshall plays a tough game and loses to ECU, and then on the return flight, you know what happens next, and this is probably a good thing. Yeah, College Game Day, I don't think that really means anything for me. Yeah, College Game Day is great, but I don't know if having a field full of fans screaming and hollering and hooping it up and stupid, goofy little signs here, I don't know if that's the way to go. That's just my take on it, but I think you do something like this, you can have proper, and of course, I still have to remember, and we need to remember as well. I mean, it's still going to be a football game that day, so you don't want to go into this game and just be completely somber, and I mean, you want to be present in the moment, you want to understand the moment, but at the same time, it's a football game. You're cheering for the team to play, and you're rooting them on, and that's the point. That's the victory. And I keep reminding people. The victory is that they take the field. That's it. That's the only victory you need. Doesn't matter if they win or lose or tie. It doesn't mean anything. The victory is they took the field and played football that day. And so anytime you play a game, there's your victory. You won. The program did not disappear. They're remembered. They're part of the fabric of what Marshall football is about. And I think Marshall is in a good position now. Doesn't matter what the records are, but Marshall's in a good position now where that's part of the fabric of Marshall. But it's not the only thing, because Marshall has risen, to use some colorful language there. They've risen. All right, basketball. We are going to hear from Jansen Williams. We're going to hear from Jared West. We're going to hear from Tavion Kinsey. We'll do that when we continue here on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Thursday, February 20th edition. The Drive continues on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. So we've got basketball coming up this weekend. It's Thursday. We don't have basketball tonight. It's sort of a interesting place to be. Kind of getting used to that, having a Thursday off, but we get back at it on Saturday. And we got Jansen Williams, we got Jared West, and we got Tavion Kinsey. Now, yesterday, these three young men were featured on the student radio station over at WMUL 88.1 FM. I encourage you to listen to their game broadcast sometime, support the students, but all three were on SportsView last night. And
yeah, they were. Obviously, they got a busy schedule, especially this week, a free week, so we ended up going to practice and getting them in the media room. Pretty nice. It's nice to do little one-on-one kind of thing. Instead, I was initially thinking we were going to get them as a group of three, but it was nice to get them a one-on-one.
So Jansen Williams has been having a sort of a resurgence here these last few games, and we'll go to that right now. Just making sure you had it ready. Okay. Here's Jansen talking about him. Also, Michael Byers. These guys have really been pretty effective as of late getting their shot back. So here's Here's Jansen talking about him and Mike getting their shooting back.
No game, and it's really good to have these players on these players on my team that you're always giving me good feedback and constantly telling me I want you to take that shot because I believe in it and I believe in you. It's also good to have somebody struggling with me so I can look at him, see when he does well, and it makes me want to do well. It's something. I don't know. I just said it again. I'm going to say it again. It's something we've all have experienced. We aren't doing as well on the shooting side of this as a team, but when some of us have the role of only shooting, knowing that that's our one job that we're supposed to be good at, it's kind of tough to see that once your shots aren't falling, it kind of makes you want to play the whole game of basketball. Once my shooting's not doing well, I might as well do something else. Rebound, block shots, whatever I got to do. So I feel like that kind of helped us out, me and Mike, playing the whole game of basketball. Kind of got our minds off of just the shooting.
So Jansen pointing out that, hey, look, if I can't hit my shots, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to rebound a little bit more, I'm going to block shots, I'm going to do what I need to do. And I think that's been a reward for him because he was in the starting lineup, got taken out of the starting lineup, and it really wasn't a punishment to Jansen. It was more of all right, we're going to insert some different guys in. They've worked their way into the starting lineup, and Dan's going to do what's best for the team. But Jansen's worked himself back in the starting lineup, and he's got some interesting thoughts on being reinserted into that starting lineup.
It makes me feel like I can finally do something for this team that I've been waiting on this whole season. Once I start knocking shots down, it makes everybody else's lives easier. That we've been banking on the shooters being able to shoot, and we have been doing a very good job at that for this whole season, the majority of the season. So once we start seeing that happening and what's been happening in the recent past, it just makes you feel good that you can contribute something that's going to help the rest of the team out.
Now, I haven't heard this next cut. I'm kind of curious what Jansen says, but he's talking about Iron Bennett because Bennett is your guy to go inside, right? When you think, how's this team work? Well, Tavion, he can probably go in and out. You got a guy like Jared, he could probably go in and out a little bit, lay up, little jumper here and there, but Benson, I can't even read my own handwriting. Bennett, he's a guy who goes inside, and you know what? He's also worked that outside shot into his game, and here's Jansen talking about that.
If we can have such a dominant player on the inside, who's been dominating this whole season, kudos to him. He's been dominating this whole season, and teams see that and they scout that, so they're gonna double him, especially now. From now on out, they're going to double Iron Bennett. So it's really good for us, and it's gonna help him out and the rest of the team. But it's really gonna help Iron out if me and the others can knock down these shots. Because if they double, one of us is gonna be open. He kicks it out, we're gonna shoot it. 3 points is more than 2 points. So if we can knock down these shots, it's gonna help Iron a whole lot in giving him free range to do, what he does best is dominate the paint.
That's the duo right there. I'm going to call Jansen, I'm going to call Bennett Benson from now on. That's the duo. Jansen, Bennett, Benson. When they kick it in and out to each other, Iron goes inside, doesn't have a shot, he kicks it out to Jansen. Benson. That's going to be the duo there. Spencer, make that trend on social media. Make that trend.
I'll talk to Jansen.
Yeah, tell him and Bennett. That's my new name for both of them, Benson. So, hey, it's group play. Got to play ODU again. Playing ODU again. Here's Jansen's thoughts on playing those guys once again.
They're a good team. They're just like everybody else. I feel like ODU game was a pretty big game for us as a team. We played an overall great game. Anything that they threw at us, we were able to handle, and we scouted them very well. So if we can just bring that same energy to everybody else, man, I swear, we're a team to be reckoned with if we can really focus and get the job done,
I've heard this before. Second half team. I've read that somewhere as well. Second half team.
I don't know, today? Today, did you read it somewhere?
Period. Their second half team, their second half season team. Last year, they got on a run. I've heard this before. Dan's talked about this. He wish he could get his team to start the way that they finish. We've heard this before. And here's Jansen talking about, hey, look, we're a team to be reckoned with. And, of course, Conference USA might make it a little harder on them because they've got to end group play. They're going to be in Texas. Ending group play in Texas. So Jansen talks about that. Look, we start in home, we end in Texas, and then you got to stay there.
At the end of the day, I feel like it'll help us out. It'll give us a slight advantage. I don't know how many teams are doing that, but it's good to see that we're coming from West Virginia to Texas, getting to play. UTSA will be in San Antonio, and then have a couple days. I think it's like 3 days of getting there and getting comfortable with where we're at, and it'll give us, the way I think about it is it'll give us 3 days to really focus on the next game. We're already there. We don't need to think about the flight. We don't need to think about traveling. We don't think about school. We'll be there. We'll be able to get schoolwork done beforehand. I think it will help us out just a little bit.
So that's Jansen Williams, and chance to catch up with him yesterday. Also, Jared West. You guys talked to him over there at the student radio station. And Jared's a guy that he's calm, he's cool. He's got it all in front of him. He's got focus. But right in the back of his head, right back there, there's Jared, that other Jared voice. You got the good Jared. He's over here on one shoulder. And then you got that other Jared, like, why are you going to let him do that to you? Why are you going to let them do that to you? You didn't work hard enough. That guy, that voice, it's just always, because it has to be a voice in his head that's telling him, you're not working hard enough. You're not working hard enough, because he's always working hard enough. And it's not good enough for him. And now, he probably takes it personally. I didn't play hard enough. We got beat by these guys. And here's Jared talking about the possibility of some revenge when facing teams that the Herd lost to early in the season.
Honestly, even the FAU game, even though they're coming here, they still beat us when we went down there. So we have a chance to really get revenge on all three of those teams who we lost to, and it's a really good opportunity for us to go on the road and get some wins and build some confidence for us because I felt like we had a chance to win in all those games. So, going to UAB and UTSA, those are two tough games, two good teams that it's going to be tough to go in there and win, but I feel like if we just stay focused and stay together, we stay mentally and physically prepared, that we'll be ready to go.
Not the answer I would have given, but that's the answer Jared gives. Oh, yeah, we got a chance to get some revenge. No! I would have been bland. If I'd have been on your show yesterday, Spencer, I would have been bland. Like, yeah, we're playing these guys again. They really gave us a good game last time, and, we're going to come out and see what we can do. We're going to draw some plays up on the board and, let's go out there and see what we can do. I'm going to be so generic. No, he's like, we're going to get revenge.
Well, I think he was a little comfortable, too, because alongside me in that interview was Andrew Rogers, and Andrew Rogers' high school teammate of Jared West. So
now, I get it.
A little connection there. Maybe it felt a little more personal to say things like that.
No, I get it, but I'm not giving any bulletin board material. Because now, like, oh, we're going to get some revenge on us, huh? Going to get some revenge on us. No, that's not the case. I would have given 0. But, you expect no less from Jared because he'll actually go out and back it up. And he is a guy that can sit back and look at this team and see things, see trends. He can look back and see how games are going, how certain guys are meshing. And he had some interesting thoughts on Andrew Taylor just finally getting into a rhythm.
College is a different game. It's not high school, and it also hurts because Andrew didn't play for a whole 2 years, like you said. And but I feel like he's doing a good job. He's making his adjustments still. He's still learning. He's still going through the process. And he's had a couple of big games for us, really, and has helped us out a lot. And he started every game since he's been back, which is good. His minutes are pretty high, so he's getting more and more game experience and stuff like that. I think he's doing a good job. He just has to continue to learn, continue to grow, and get better. Stay focused, not get too high and too low throughout the season, and I think he'll be fine.
So it's Jared West. And finally, Jared, he's done this. He knows what it takes. He's done this before. So he has keys to success for the Herd in pod play.
I feel like just making shots, really, up in our percentages throughout this last couple of games that we have, give us some confidence and get us into a rhythm a little bit. We've had some games where we've had spurts where we shot the ball well. We've had some games like UTSA where we couldn't buy one. So I think making shots is the most important thing and taking them with confidence. And then I think rebounding the ball. We give up a lot of offensive rebounds at UTSA, and I think at the end of the day that's probably what hurt us the most. They got a lot more shots than we did. And, we got to do a better job with that. I feel like boxing out and getting our rebounds because that helps us get in transition, and I feel like that helps our offense a lot more too. So I would say just making shots and taking them with confidence and, rebounding the ball on both ends.
That's Jared West, his keys to success for the Herd in pod play. Now, we got a couple of cuts with Tavion Kinsey. Well, we only have 2 cuts. Tavion, he's a guy who likes to talk. Why do we only have 2 cuts?
Well, see, the situation was we had to get there, whatever, set up, and by the time we finished interviewing Jansen and Jared, because Tavion, I don't know if he has class or something, but he wasn't there as early as both of them.
Okay,
so by the time we got to Tavion, it was 2:24, and they start practice at 2:30.
I got you.
And we really didn't want to have Cody or Dan mad at us.
No, you don't want Cody Lynn mad at you. Never want Cody Lynn mad at you. Here's Tavion Kinsey. He talking about yeah, I like this. Tavion talking about the youngsters. The youngsters. Tavion talking about youngsters finding their roles.
Definitely. It reminds me of last year when I was a freshman and I kind of came into it at the end of the year. With time, it comes growth and guys playing in games, and then you start to play. We get into a time where we're going to play teams 2 times now, as in UTSA, Florida Atlantic, and ODU and UAB. So guys are, they know what to expect around this time. And guys have been in practice, and they know what practice is like now, and they're kind of into they're kind of comfortable now coming into their roles, and they know what their role is and how to play their role at times. But I think those guys are learning, and next year, going into next year, they'll be great.
Tavion's still young. Come on, man. Come on. Tavion, the veteran.
Well, I was a little rushing with this. I meant like the freshman.
I get it.
I was referring to Taylor, the two guys. I can never say their name.
I get it. I get it
unless
completely.
practice
But still, Tavion's, because I asked him this very same thing earlier in the year. It's like, hey, you're sort of like a veteran now. You're like one of the leaders of this team. And he's like, yeah, I just got here, dude. Pretty much. I'm paraphrasing. Now, the good news about all this is we don't have a game tonight. That means they've got extra time to get their legs, get ready for pod play. And Tavion, I'm sure, is enjoying having maybe a couple extra days to get ready. But here's Tavion talking about having some time off before pod play begins.
It's definitely big. I like coming off that road win at UTEP. I was just hoping on the bus, like, please let us get they gave us 2 days off from practice, and I knew we were going to practice all week, but we don't have a game until Saturday. So that time to rest, even though we got practice, we don't do really that much in practice. Having those times to rest and not have to be in game mode, but still having to be mentally locked in a little bit, but our bodies get time to rest. And in the weight room, we've been, just trying to maintain nothing crazy, not doing too much, just trying to give our bodies a rest because we know it's about to get really big going into conference play. And going into the conference tournament.
It's Tavion Kinsey. We want to thank Student Station 88.1 FM WMUL and their sports program, Sports View. We appreciate the Student Station helping us out with some of the sound they provided today. It was good stuff over there on Sports View. Of course, if you don't follow the campus radio station, for the most part, if you are a aspiring broadcaster, you have to be in some form involved with Sports View, or they don't let you out. That's sort of the rule.
Yeah, I am the executive producer. That was, I kind of initially put on by Dr. Bailey. But, I've taken it in stride. I really like it. I like being able to construct a show, kind of like what I'll be doing for you this summer, booking guests. I've started to like that a lot more.
Yes, that's going to be your role here. You're gonna book guests, so I can just sit down and just talk to somebody. I like that. That's my kind of day. I sit down, okay, who am I talking to today? Okay, let's do that. Gives me, yes. Of course, we're talking about stuff on the air that, this is like business. We're having like a business meeting on the air right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about our show business. Business. We're going to take a break, come back. We are going to talk a little bit about the Tim Tebow bill. It is it's a thing that maybe is going to pass, maybe not, but the West Virginia House of Delegates, they've got their own take on the Tim Tebow bill, and we'll talk about that when we continue with today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the February 20th edition. Paul Swann, your host here, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I've got young Spencer Dupuis, our student intern producer, also part of the sports crew over at the student radio station. And we're taking your phone calls. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255 to be a part of today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. And keep an eye on the Tim Tebow bill. And if you're not familiar with this, basically, and I'm really putting it in a nutshell here. Too long, didn't read. I'm going that route here. For the most part, what this is going to allow, this is going to give an opportunity for homeschool students to participate in extracurricular activities. And there are some that are on board with this, and then there are others who think, what are you doing here? So the House in West Virginia, the House of Delegates, they've got their own version of this Tim Tebow bill that they're working on. They've got a few differences. Now, this was approved by the House Education Committee. It was a voice vote. and it's going to allow homeschool students to play if there are certain things that they can check off. So here's some requirements here. Now, first of all, and again, if you want to participate in athletics, there is an academic part of this that they're trying to make sure that at least has some standardization. And so part of this is that you got to show academic progress on a standardized test. Okay. So there's a test component to this. You have to be enrolled in one virtual school course through the county school system or the State Department of Education. So, meaning you have to have some skin in the game. All right? That's okay. And also, you have to meet the age and other eligibility requirements. So you've got to basically be eligible by the standards in which other student athletes have to meet eligibility. You have to show some academic progress. I mean, you have to show, not some, you have to show academic progress. Let me rephrase that. And you have to be enrolled in one virtual school course through the county school system or the State Department of Education. Okay, so now, what does that get you? Well, that gets you eligibility to play for a school in the student athlete's attendance zone. So, in other words, if you've got someone who's being homeschooled in Huntington, they can't go play for Hurricane. Okay, that's fair because, again, we don't want a situation where you're school shopping. Hey, I'm a really good athlete here. I'm being homeschooled, and I want to go play for Hurricane. I'm using them as an example. I want to go play for Spring Valley, but I'm over here. But no, that's been an issue as far as public versus private schools, about the fact that the student athletes who go to private schools and who participate in WVSSAC events, sanctioned events, the fact that some of the public schools think that, well, there's a little chicanery going on there. And so this is sort of trying to prevent that. I can't go, you know what, they have a really good basketball team over here. They're one county away. I'm just going to go over there. No, so none of that's going to happen. And basically, it's basically the transfer rule. We're throwing the transfer rule in, and that's fair. It really is, because unfortunately, there are some that would take advantage of that. You know what? I live here. Our basketball team's not that good. I'm going to go over there. Well, I understand. I understand completely. You don't want to play for a bad team, and I get that. But if you think you're going to do that, there's some hoops you got to go through. So it's basically, it's going to help at least prevent some of that. I'm going to go play here because here's better than where I'm at right now. And so the SSAC also allows virtual school students to participate in sports if they take 4 virtual classes. So they're reducing it in the House bill as a compromise so they can get that transfer language in the bill. Okay, if these kids really want to participate in these activities, I think the transfer rule is really important. Now, they're doing this because the House Education Committee basically is putting this out and saying, look, our bill's simpler than the Senate passed bill. The Senate passed bill would allow students also in non-SSAC private schools to play public school sports. I think what they're doing is pretty solid as far as giving student athletes an opportunity that are homeschooled to participate in extracurricular activities. At the same time, there's some standard here, and we're not bringing in ringers. I've heard that. Bringing in ringers. All right. So that's what the House is doing. Now, the West Virginia Schools Athletic Coaches Association, they've got a different perspective on this. And so I got a hold of the letter that went out. This is dated today, and I got a copy of this. And I'm not going to read it verbatim to you, but basically the executive committee of the West Virginia Schools Athletic Coaches Association, they say they joined with the WVSSAC in opposition to House Bill 3127. They're concerned that Tebow students do not have to maintain the same academic or follow the same procedures that member school students do. They believe it is unfair for team members to be on a team that does not follow the same procedures and regulations on a daily basis. So they're saying, look, you don't have any skin in the game. These kids have to do all this stuff. These kids just hop it in here and they don't. That's what they're saying. Also, they are strong believers that if you participate in WVSSAC extracurricular activities, you should be a member of the school. And again, I'm paraphrasing here, that they have to achieve a minimum grade point average. It's not arbitrary. Okay, but I think the House bill is going to maybe clean some of that up a little bit. Also, they say students who are not in the member schools do not always use letter grades for academic qualifications. They want to know what test is going to be used. They're worried about academic fraud. They're also talking about, which standardized test is going to be. And this one I thought was, I didn't like this one. I'll read this one verbatim. This is again from the West Virginia Schools Athletic Coaches Association. They say in this letter they sent to the legislative leadership, finally, the Tebow Act can open the door for students who do not like school to go on to a homeschool program. We do not have a clear way to handle academic eligibility. We could be opening up all extracurricular activities to fraud and allowing extra burdens on school administration to determine eligibility. And that's their stance on this. Now, I think, and this is just me, I think that there needs to be a compromise here, because I know there are some who are adamant that you don't go to school here, so if you don't have any skin in the game, you don't have to, you can't come here. You have to have skin in the game. And I'm here thinking, one, all right, I get your point here, but I think the House bill is going to put a little skin in the game. Two, I also believe that I'm paying for some of this, right? Tax property, I don't know how much, I don't know what my contribution is. I don't have my tax bill. It's not itemized. But I really think that if I'm putting money into the school system, what are we harming here a little bit? And maybe I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have too big of a dog in this fight here. So maybe I don't have a passionate argument about letting these kids play that are homeschooled. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm not going to sit here and ultra debate this. I don't have that much skin in the game. I don't have that much of a stance here to be intellectually honest with you and say that you are wrong. These kids should be able to participate, and here's why. I'm just casually saying, look, you know what? I don't think it's a bad idea. I think we can overcome some of these issues. This isn't a terrible idea. If there are protections in place to make it fair and equitable, I think, again, because we're all putting into the school system, right? As taxpayers, we're all putting into this. That why not? Why not allow these kids opportunity here with the extracurricular activities? Now, and of course, I know there'll be some that will say, look, what if this homeschool kid's knocking somebody else out of an opportunity here? Okay, let's address that. If you play high school football in West Virginia, you might not start. You might be on the roster, you might not start. Basketball, I know we have to have, you have to make the team. But I think we can figure out how to get around some of these issues. As I said, I'm going to be intellectually honest with you. I don't have that much of a fight in this. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have much ground that I have built up to stand on my stance here. So don't come at me, bro. Don't come at me. And you can, but don't come at me, because I want to debate the issue. I want to talk to you about it. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Don't come at me, man. I mean, I can I can be swayed either way right now, but I don't see where there's a problem here. I'm not on one side or the other adamant, like, no, they can't participate, or yes. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea to let these kids participate here. But again, I don't have much fight in this. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have much fight in it. But come on. How many kids are we talking about here? I don't think, because this is a possibility, kids are going to, in mass number, say, you know what, I'm done with school. I'm going to go homeschool. Because you have to meet certain requirements. You can't just say, I'm going to be a homeschool kid and just think you're going to cruise through life. No. If you're homeschooled, you got to meet certain requirements. I mean, it's a different curriculum here. And I'm all for choice as well. I'm all for choice. I believe if a parent believes that homeschooling is better for their child, so be it. All we're talking about is should we allow a kid the opportunity to go play basketball, extracurricular activity, or, you know what, maybe we have a homeschool team. I don't know. I don't know what the winning proposal. Would you imagine we could have a homeschool basketball team?
I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
I don't think we could fill it every year, but
it would be hard to fill. I mean,
yeah.
You don't know how many people are homeschooled, but I think that'd be a cool thing. I mean, I don't know what you call them.
We'll come up with a name. Find a way for them to participate. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's going to be a sore subject for a lot of people in this state. So I'm kind of curious where it goes. I don't know if we're going to have the huge fight we had for, the reclassification of basketball to sort of readjust some of the private schools where they play compared to the public schools. I know that's a big issue. All right, we got to hit a quick break. Come back. We'll wrap it up here. It's The Drive.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. So how do you feel about the Tebow bill? I'm kind of curious. I want to hear on social media. We'll go over it tomorrow with you, but at Paul Swann is where you can find me on Twitter. I want to hear from you. Give me your thoughts on the Tebow bill. Why are you for it? Why are you against it? And if you're in the middle, tell me why you're kind of leaning towards one or the other as far as the sides are concerned. And really, give me some thought. Don't give me, I'm just against it. No, I want to hear some thought on this because I'm kind of curious. Is this going to be such a disruptive thing? I mean, you got the Coaches Association saying, look, no, we're kind of against this here. We don't want this. It's not good for us. It's not good for the game. And how do you give these kids opportunities? How do you create opportunities? Or do you basically say, look, since you're homeschooled, you don't get these same opportunities here? And I know there's an argument that, look, we're paying into the system as well. We're paying into the school system as well. And there's another thing. Doesn't the school system benefit from – I'm curious. Now, I'm not going to lie to you here. I'm probably going to need to brush up on this a little bit. But as far as school funding is concerned, is it based on enrollment numbers or is it based on how many people are in the county as far as students? I'm going to not pretend to know all the facts on that. So that's a big part of the argument. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. We thank our producer today, Spencer Dupuis. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're both going to hit some Mucinex here. So,
yes, we are.
Yeah, you're rolling with the Mucinex. I've got the Alka-Seltzer gel tablets that I'm going to rock tonight to try to defeat this once and for all. And we're going to get over this together. And hopefully the weather will stay one form of weather. It's like 30 degrees today. I woke up. I look at the temperature on my my clock, my show here. It said 30, and then it went down to 29. I looked over, dropped a degree as I woke up. For young Spencer Dupuis, I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.